Have you seen what that famous scene actually looks like? Yeah, it was actually shot on a green screen, but what's funnier is when the actor gets his teeth whitened for the scene. Literally. And today we have 20 scenes like that. So let's get started. CGI crowds. A true fan should remember the heartbreaking moment when Peeta and Katniss visit District 11. It was a pretty morally challenging scene for Katniss. But what's the big deal? Where are the effects? Actually, they're everywhere. From the screens to the same crowds that were created in the processing. Makeup. The scene in which Jennifer Lawrence experiences the pain of a real poisonous fog was a real challenge not only for the character of the actress, but also for the makeup artist herself. To achieve realism and create the effect of poisonous air, she had to undergo an intense, laborious, and not pleasant process of attaching numerous prosthetic boils all over her neck and face. The process of attaching such a large number of prostheses was meticulous and demanding. Specialists used a special, though perhaps not too convenient, adhesive to ensure that the prostheses were firmly and securely attached to the actress' skin. This created a visually realistic effect that gave her an appearance compromised by the poisonous air, but at the same time made the stage experience for Lawrence quite difficult and uncomfortable. VFX people. I think when watching this movie you were wondering where you could find so many actors for the crowd, and it was necessary to pay everyone, and considering that these scenes are repeated part by part several times in the movie, the company would have to pay for this pleasure. One of the most impressive crowd scenes turned out to be the scene with the ancient chariot races and gladiator fights of ancient Rome, where the grandstands were greeted by thousands of Capitol residents taking their seats in the bleachers. But there were no actual crowds. All the crowds were created using computer graphics. They were all added later by animators, which is much cheaper and much easier than hiring, placing, and costuming thousands of minor actors. Member of the Star Squad. Let's move on to the episode with Mockingjay Part 2, specifically the scene where there is a chase in the subway between the Peacekeepers' capital and Katniss and the Star Squad. There are actually some interesting CGI and VFX graphics moments here. One is when one member of the Star Squad runs under a circular beam of light and explodes into 1,000,000 pieces. It's a very sad moment for the rebels, but awesome animation. Huge minds. What's the poorest neighborhood in District 12? That's right, it's Katniss' home district. This same District 12 is responsible for supplying capital with coal. Around this district are many huge mines where workers work day in and day out. Though as you may have guessed by now, no one is actually going to work there. Instead of renting cranes and costing towers, they decided to just film the whole thing on the blue screen. Movie budget. What do you think the budget was for the movie The Hunger Games? The correct answer is $78 million. But how do you think the futuristic hovercraft was made? That's right, with computer graphics and CGI. And also the impressive character we see rising from the floor in Mockingjay Part 1 was actually animated. Burning dress. As you probably know, most of the movie was based on the books. In the book there was a moment with Katniss' dress on fire during the ceremony. Luckily, the producers of the movie did not dare to use practical effects for this scene, and all this was added already in computer graphics. The Capitol. However, despite the variety of challenges faced by the creators of the Capitol computer environment, their outstanding achievement to date has been the process of creating a full-fledged virtual reality representation of the magnificent central city of Panem. It is worth emphasizing here that this project was a real challenge in the field of virtual technology. During the process of creating Capitol's computer environment, elements of Roman and Nazi architecture were used as a source of inspiration. This decision was conscious in order to give the virtual city a distinctive, almost cold and calculating appearance. Roman architecture, with its monumentality and austerity, as well as Nazi architecture, which emphasizes authoritarian features, were embodied in the virtual reality to enhance the sense of dictatorship and oppression that is inherent in the Panem state. CGI floor. Do you remember the scene during the fight in the subway when the whole floor started to explode and they tried to escape from it? So this scene proves that in some moments practical effects simply cannot be realized in full, and it is replaced by our favorite CGI effects. VFX weapons. One of the most impressive parts of District 13 is the weapons warehouse, as it was hard to find a location to put everything there. It would seem, why not just make this warehouse by hand? But no, the producers decided to do everything with computer graphics and CGI. And of course, a few stockpiles of nuclear bombs were added and animated. Dogs. This enormous task required excellent organization and perfect synchronization between the companies responsible for the VFX visual effects in the film. One illustrative example is the scene with the dog, where the interaction of several specialized companies was essential. In the first phase, Rising Sun Pictures took over the creation of the main elements of the scene. They developed the visual components that represented the basis for further work. These elements were then handed over to Rhythm and Hughes, who took on the task of adding muscle structure, realistic skin, and the editing and animation of the entire stage look. This included creating anatomical details and dynamic movements, giving the character a lifelike and natural look. Once Rhythm and Hughes was completed, the project was handed over to Hybrid. This stage involved integrating the created visual elements into the control room's holographic interface. Control room. Speaking of one of the main things about the first two installments of the Hunger Games, one of the most common and memorable scenes is the control room, where the tributes are manipulated and controlled throughout the arena to make their existence in this deadly arena as difficult as possible. In fact, the control room itself was covered with a green screen, and of course the hard part was to teach the actors who sat there to pretend as if they were controlling holographic computer screens, which in turn were later animated in post-processing to make everything as realistic and super futuristic as possible. VFX creatures. Did you know that almost all of the animals in this franchise that chased Peeta and Katniss through the forest were actually added using computer graphics? They had the task of making them look as close as possible to the creatures that were described in the books, but looking at them, I wouldn't say I'd even want to run into them in real life. Makeup and costumes. Preparing all the extras for the Capitol shoot was heroic work. In this arduous process, the head of makeup, Van Neal, led a team of 30 makeup artists for an intense 9.5 hours to get everything ready for the start of shooting at Van Neal. Implementing the eyebrow bleaching script for all the extras was a separate challenge. The process was stressful and exhausting for the actors, who had to wait while doing makeup prep and eyebrow bleaching. The waiting and preparation required patience and stamina, as every detail is important to create an authentic look. The makeup artists also faced immense tension and responsibility. Not only did they have to do their job efficiently, but they had to remain professional throughout the extended period of work. The long hours on their feet and meticulous work required them to have a high level of skill and stamina. Thus, preparing for the Capitol shoot was not only a technical challenge for the makeup artists, but also a physical and emotional challenge for the actors, which emphasizes the importance and professionalism of all involved in the creation of a cinematic work. Filming location. What country do you think Capitol itself was filmed in? Actually, the movie itself was filmed in many places, including Atlanta, Paris, and even Hawaii. But Capitol itself doesn't actually exist. It took huge green screens to depict this huge place. For the idea to build the Capitol itself, they took different architectural solutions from different places they visited. Burning wings. Few of you have thought about how the scene with the Wings of Fire scene was actually filmed. Few people would dare to make real wings out of fire, especially when it's two movie stars. The wings that were in the scene where they rode the chariot during the opening ceremony were also created using computer graphics. It is unlikely that any company would risk the health or even the lives of movie stars for the sake of some scenes. Tracker jackers. As you have already noticed, most of the elements were created using computer graphics. If already crowds of people have been recreated with graphics, then the tracker jacker is out of the question. They are designed to convey their gigantic size. I still don't understand how or why Katniss knocks one of the nests off the tree. Let me know in the comments if you know. CGI crowds. Remember the riots that Katniss and Peeta instigated during the games, and which then spread throughout Panem? Look how the crowd gets upset about their inaction against Capitol and thus rushes to the stage before them. It seems like nothing complicated here. You can even do it without the help of computer graphics. But not in this case. This whole small crowd of people has been multiplied again through computer graphics. Jennifer's training. Is it possible to learn to shoot archery professionally from zero in a short period of time? Possible or not, Katniss had to do it. And she did it perfectly, of course, not without the help of a 5-time Olympic archer who practiced with her for 15 hours so that she could master this weapon in such a short period of time. But alas, it was all for nothing in a way, because in the end the producers decided that it would have been much safer to animate all her arrows for the safety of everyone on set. Guys, where do you think it would take more money to do computer graphics or to create everything from scratch? If you liked the video, put a like and subscribe to the channel. Bye.